the people that you've worked with before. Have a little introspection to make sure if everybody's an asshole, what do we know? You probably are. So I'm sure I was in many ways back then. But then I went to State Street. And the way I went to State Street was different. This time I was like, okay, I want to be a boss. Not the boss, but a boss. I want to manage people. I want to lead a team. And I want to see if I'm any good at this. And are they bad or am I like unleadable? And so I wasn't really qualified for that at the time. And the best way to get something you are unqualified for is to show, don't tell, is to do proof of work, not proof of resume. And so what did I do? I went out to State Street. I looked at all these jobs they had outstanding. There was one that I thought I could do, which was in Latin America. And I put together an entire business plan. Here's how I would run this division. Here's the client list I would go after. Here's the scripts I would use. Here's the product I would sell. Here's the people I would hire for my team. Here was my budget. I just put together, like I did all the work. And I still didn't get the job. And then I did it 3 different times for 3 different people in 3 different roles at State Street until I swear to God, one of the guys finally called me and he goes, "Are you this Codie Sanchez girl that is calling all of us?" And I said, "Yeah." I go, "Can you imagine what I'm going to do for you when I do this when I don't get paid? What do you think I'm going to do for you when I do get paid?" And he was honestly like worn down, like a sad dad, after the kids just beating him up. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. He gives me a job. That job was pretty incredible because that was the first time I got to run my own little team. I got to have people report into me. But if you think I was good at it at first, you're out of your mind. I remember the first time I had to fire somebody, which was like my first employee too, whose name was Ryan. Sorry, Ryan. And Ryan was like straight up Bostonian. I lived in Boston at the time. And I remember nobody respected me. Like respect is earned, not given. I wasn't deserving of respect. And if you're not getting respect right now, it might be because you need to have a little bit more dangerous of a demeanor. It might be because you're not that impactful of an enemy, so you can't be a very good ally. And that was me. I wasn't really dangerous on either side of the coin. And so Ryan respected me about as little as a human could. And I remember one day we're at an event and he looks at me and I'm his boss. And he's like, "You got any tattoos?" And he's Bostonian, so he has an accent. And I at the time did not. I'm like, "I do not, Ryan." And he's like, "I got one." I'm like, "That's cool. I'm excited for you." And he's like, "You want to know what it is?" I'm like, "I feel like you're going to tell me." And he responds, "It's a squirrel reaching right up towards my." And I was like, "Ryan, what the did you just, are you?" He goes, my nutsack. You get it? I was like, "I do. I in fact do get it." Then he proceeds to ask me if I slept with anybody to get this job. And at that point, I'm like, we are backsliding here. This is not working out very well. He also proceeds to like not come in with these elaborate stories about why I'm getting in trouble because I got this liability on my hands. And it took me having the balls to do a thing that's like not very well lauded on the internet, which is tell somebody they're not a fit for your company. Like if you want to get hated quickly, go tell somebody that was hard for you to fire somebody on the internet. It doesn't go over very well. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to make crazy amounts of money, you're going to have to do something irrationally difficult. Your bank account is a reflection of this, of the difficult decisions that you've made and the difficult conversations that you've had. The more difficult conversations you have, the higher the bank account you will eventually have. So that was my first little lesson. I was like, all right, now I got to figure out how to get somebody here who would actually, who I could be worthy of their respect. And I got to live up to that. So then I'm looking to leave State Street, Boston's amazing place. What up, Bostonians? Tell me if I got any of you guys who listen. But it's cold as fuck. And I'm from Arizona. And so I was so cold. I had lived in like New York and Chicago and Boston. Also highly recommend, if you stay in the place that you were born, it is really hard to change the human who you were. Move often. See who you are. You can always go back, but at some point it's hard to leave. So see what it's like when you uproot your tree. So I was ready to leave Boston because I'm a wuss and it was too cold. And I'm looking for my next role. And so I want to switch into a different part of finance. And for you guys, I don't know if you've ever, like, you want to get to this next level, but like you can't see the bridge between the two. It's too far. Like you're like, how do I get this ladder from where I am to what I want to be? What I want to be is like not reasonable for where I'm at, but I want to get there. And that was me. And that's when I really wanted to break into private equity. And so there's one firm at the time that was doing it really well. They're called Credit Suisse. They're not around as much anymore. But I wanted to work at Credit Suisse and I wanted to run this division there like I was at State Street. And I had to interview in 3 continents with 12 different people. I had to pay and fly myself out to those locations to get the job. I still remember the way the guy laughed at me when I told him that I went to Arizona State. He thought it was a joke. He was like, because I made the Harvard of the West joke. He goes, oh, you did go to Harvard? I'm like, no, bro, I did go to Arizona State. Yeah. I got 3 degrees. He goes, do all of them combined equal a real one? I was like, this is going well. I think he likes me. I think we're probably going to get hired. Shocking, I don't get the job at Credit Suisse. And I'm actually kind of ticked because at that point, I was really qualified. Like I already had the client list. I spoke multiple languages, English and Spanish. I knew the territory. I was already covering it. And they hire this other person. And I'm like devastated. But inside, the thing that I wanted more than anything else was that line from the Garth Brooks song, which is sometimes you should thank God for unanswered prayers. Because what that led to was me building my very first $1 billion in assets under management business in Latin America. I could have gone and been somebody else's employee, or I could have built my own company. And the reason why, again, a chip on a shoulder so big, it feels bigger than any back pat. So I go to a company called First Trust, which is awesome. And I'm loving it and I'm building like crazy. And then I get divorced. And I'm like, everything's going so good. Total destruction of my life. Lose all my friends, lose my house, lose a bunch of money, feel awful. I'm so embarrassed. We work together at the same firm. That was a real blast. I'm like the only female, not to play the woman card, but it is true. I'm the only female that runs a division there, and all the rest are dudes. So who do you think they like more? Spoiler, not this one. So anyway, they all side with him. I'm still there. It's a total nightmare. And yet I've built this big, huge business where like nothing had been built before. So I was like, you're gonna have to pry this out of my cold, dead fingers. I was like, what do I do? Now I have to like walk away from this huge thing that I built, or I have to like see him every day and kind of get these comments. And I remember like one of them in particular, one of the MDs, I will show it to you. We'll put you, if you see this in the YouTube video, I'll put it up there. I keep it to this day. One of the other, kind of directors like I was, sent me an email real late at night one night. And it just said, you are dumbing down the firm. I'm glad you're happy. You're ruining the mission that we're on. Something to that effect. You can see the exact words here. You're dumbing down the firm. That's the part that I remember more than anything else. And I remember thinking, motherfucker, like, I'm too tired for this. Like, I'm tired. I'm beat up. It hurts. My heart hurts. I just feel like I'm getting kind of attacked on all sides. And I'm like, I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to leave. And I talked to a couple other people at the firm. They're like, you're crazy. You can't leave. You built this all up. Like, you already lost all this other stuff. You're going to lose this too. So instead, I start dabbling in my side hustles, my little side hobbies. And like, they start growing. That's just when I start buying companies. If you know anything about what I do online now, I started buying up these little companies. And I realized whoa, thank God I didn't buy these while I was married, because that motherfucker would own part of them. So I was like, that's sick. Okay, now I got these side things that are actually making me a ton of money. That helped because, I'm expensive. And so I was like, I can't leave this firm and not have any money, and I don't want to live on my couch, and I like nice things. And I think they lie to you guys when they say that you have to live on your couch in order to have success. I do not think you have to do that. I think you have to do very hard things, but I don't think you have to go to the point of bankruptcy and breaking and all of that in order to win. And so, these things start like making some money. I'm like, this is cool. What a win. If I hadn't gotten divorced, if him and I hadn't gone through that, if all those people at the firm weren't really mean to me, I wouldn't have tried to like get a little safety raft going. Then of course, what happens? I start getting a little notoriety. Like they're covering Codie Sanchez doing this in Latin America. I'm on a magazine cover. That's cool. Well, the CEO comes to me and says, I want to take a walk, which, spoiler, you guys, not a great sign ever. So I'm like, oh God, I'm fired. And he takes me on a walk and he basically says, at this company, we get rich quietly, Codie. And I thought, why can't we like get rich together? Why can't we all talk about what we're doing? I totally disagreed with him. He's like, well, listen, I got a boat, and on this boat, we're rowing left. And if you want to row right, you got to get your own boat, but you can't stay on mine. And now as a CEO, I understand it. Back then I was like, who do you think you are? But I get it. He's right. Those weren't my chips. That wasn't my boat. He has every right to go the direction that he wants. So I had to leave the company. I basically got pushed out. But you know what that led to? I went to another company. I raised $100 million for that company. And we had a huge fund in an industry that historically didn't. I got 3 new partners. I was no longer a director, which is like a level here. I was a partner, baby. I was like in the game. I was a player. And that was awesome. And we had one fund and it had incredible returns. And then we have another fund and it's doing great. And I think I'm kind of like on high, right? And at each stage of these, you guys, my network stacking up, stacking up, stacking up. It goes down a little bit, goes back up higher, goes down a little bit, but even higher. And then at this stage, I do a thing that I really hope you do consistently, which is I tell them, I think we need to take money off the table. We're winning. We're like winning big. And if you learn one thing about money, it should be save some for when it stops shining. You need to have a little cash for a rainy day. And so I was like, man, guys, we're doing so well. We're crushing it. I don't think this is sustainable. I think we better put some cash on the side and move it over. And I remember I was the youngest of the 3. There were 2 ladies at the time, but I was the youngest by far. And they were like, you're out of your mind. Like, this is going to the moon. We're going to crush it. Don't keep talking. We have more experience. We've seen this before. And I push and I push and I push, and they wouldn't listen to me. And so I was pretty upset, and I let that be known, and I thought I was right. And then one of my employees calls me, and he's, what's up, LJ, if you hear this. LJ's the man. And LJ calls me and he's like, hey, I think they're going to fire you. I was like, they can't fire me. I own part of this place. What do you mean fire me? He's like, they're like digging up, trying to find something on you so that they can push you out because you think that we should do X and you're really pushing for that investment committee. They don't think your vision's aligned with theirs. I'm like, well, first of all, a truth that I've come to agree with, which is when you have something hard to say it to somebody's face. No matter what, you will have more respect for not going around somebody else's back and instead having the cojones, as we would say in Spanish, to say it straight up. So I thanked LJ and then I got invited to a dinner with one of the partners. Now, I'm not very scary. You can see me. But my husband is scary. He is a former Navy SEAL. And not only does he have the scariest of Navy SEAL resting bitch faces, he is also jacked and a pretty big dude and also knows a lot about weapons, like an odd amount about weapons. And everybody knew that at my firm. But I knew the guy that was going to try to pull this one over on me, where he was going to try to sort of strong arm me out of the company at this dinner and try to tell me like, he kind of thought he could intimidate me, I think, which, to be fair, you guys, throughout your entire life, there will be people that try to use their intimidation, their aggression, their whatever to make you feel less than. And when that happens, you have to figure out, is this a moment that I hold a wall or am I made of paper? And those moments where you stand up and you realize that you are not made of paper, they're the moments where life really changes. I remember shaking on the way to this dinner. It was actually here in Austin at a hotel, and Chris came with me. And so I was like, here's my plan. He thinks I'm going to come to dinner, just me and him. And he's going to try to, like he usually does, either yell at me or intimidate me or blackmail me. I don't know what's going to happen. And you're going to come, Chris. And you're not going to say anything, except you're just going to sit there and look scary. And then if he doesn't let me talk, like he sometimes doesn't let me talk, you're just going to put your hand on his shoulder and you're going to say, I'm going to need you to let my wife speak. And he's going to be scared. And when I tell you the joy of my life that happened, you guys, when we get to this hotel, we go to stand in there. This gent, who I won't say his name, sees me. I see his eyes flare because he sees Chris too. And then he comes up, oh, hi, hugs, hugs, hugs. And then goes, you know what? I gotta go to the bathroom really quickly. And I peek around the corner and I watch as he gets on the phone. I'm sure to call the other partners and go, oh no, Codie's husband's here. I don't know if this is going to go exactly the way we want to. I don't know if I'm going to be able to strong arm her. I don't know what they actually said. Anyway, we come back out and I lay it on the table. And I'm like, he starts talking about something. And I'm like, my mom has a great line. She says, 99.9% of the time, when I ask you a question, I already know the answer. You have the ability to tell me a truth or a lie here. Your choice. And his face was like, what? And so then I told him, I know that you're trying to push me out of the company. Don't ask me how I know it. I know you're trying to dig up something to make me look like the bad guy. And it's not going to happen. So you have 2 options. 1, you get out of the way and you resign. Or 2, you give me a buyout option. There's no 3. So it's 1 or 2. And he's like, well, you can't force that. And I said, I think my attorney can. And so we can choose. That non-paper wall led me to the very first time, you guys, maybe past any point that normal entrepreneurs do it, doing something completely on my own. For 15 years, I had worked for other people. I'd worked with other people. I had done stuff with other people in finance, and I didn't really love the people in finance. And this was the first time that big, scary moment where I almost got pushed out, where he tried to blindside me, turned into me putting up a not paper wall. And if you think it all gets better the second that you have your own business, I'm going to let you in to a surprise. Having a job is hard. Having a business is hard. Choose your heart. Having a partner is hard. Not having a partner is hard. Choose your heart. Everything is hard. So even though I started then my own company and built that company profitably and grew it a ton and had more success than I'd ever had in my entire life and more freedom than I'd ever had in my entire life, I also had more pain than I'd ever had in my entire life. At one point, I had a partner who wanted to stop working, but wanted to keep part of my main company. The only way that I could get him to stop is I had to pay him $1 million. I had to go through lawsuits and back and forth and gnarly letters until finally I said, I will pay you $1 million to just leave. Just like stop working because you're just in the way of everything. Just get out of here and here's $1 million. So that was my first probably $1 million payout. And so it doesn't get easier as you get bigger, but you do start to build up this armor of no's and can'ts and shoulds until eventually it almost stops bothering you. Eventually, you won't get bothered by the things that bother you today. Like there's some magic that happens the more you get in entrepreneurship. It's like lifting in the gym. In the beginning, maybe 5 pounds, kind of a lot. Then it's 10, then it's 15, then it's 20. Then at some point you cannot even reconcile that 5 pounds used to be enough because you keep having gains and gains and gains. And it is the same thing in the game of success, money, life, and business. The more difficulty you have, the more burden you can carry. I don't ever think it gets easier. You just get better. And so you shouldn't ask for an easier path. You should ask for the ability to shoulder more. Those are what my prayers sound like. It doesn't sound like give me all this money, make it easier for me. It usually sounds like give me the strength and confidence to believe that this is possible for me. Give me the ability to do this task or to learn more intelligently until I can. Please don't give me problems and tasks that I cannot handle right now, but give me the ability to learn how to handle the ones that I do have. And then like at some point in your life, you will have a moment in which you think you will lose everything you have built. When you're young, you actually don't have much to lose. You have something called ego risk that you could lose, reputational risk that you could lose. But you don't actually have a mortgage and kids and finances and overhead at your company. You don't have all this big, huge risk that's hard to understand when you're young. But eventually you will. I've never met an entrepreneur that hasn't had a moment that almost broke them. And usually the joke when I tell that story is somebody in the crowd will go, only one? Because you're going to have many moments like that. And this was one such moment where I had built the company, I was doing all the things, but I had another member of my company running some of the finances. That person was either inept, incompetent, or fraudulent. And I didn't realize it, but we were a few weeks away from being completely out of money. I am talking about employees that I couldn't pay. I am talking about having to shut it down. I am talking about complete and utter loss and so much fear about what that would look like, especially when you wrap up your identity into what you were, a business owner, a CEO, or whatever.